Nobody noticed the child in seat 11F until the aircraft emergency began. When military fighters radioed her call sign over the frequency, passengers gasped. Minutes later, those same F-22 pilots would stand at attention in their cockpits, saluting a 12-year-old who just saved everyone on board. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Emma Rodriguez looked like any other 12-year-old traveling alone. She sat in seat 11F of Delta Flight 2156, wearing faded jeans and a hoodie with a cartoon astronaut on it. Her backpack was covered in space stickers, and she had a science fiction book open on her tray table. Most passengers barely noticed her. The flight attendant, Mrs. Chen, checked on her regularly. "Are you comfortable, sweetie? Need anything?" "I'm fine, thank you," Emma replied in a soft voice. "My aunt is meeting me in Denver." The businessman in 11E smiled at her. The elderly couple in 11D offered her cookies. Everyone saw exactly what they expected to see. A well-behaved child on a routine flight from Seattle to Denver. What nobody knew was that Emma Rodriguez was not an ordinary child. She held one of the most classified positions in the United States Air Force. At 12 years old, she was the youngest drone pilot in military history. Her call sign, Falcon, had become legendary in certain classified circles. Emma had been recruited at age 10 when military scientists discovered her exceptional spatial awareness and reaction times. Her young mind could process multiple data streams simultaneously in ways that adult pilots could not match. She had been flying combat drones in classified missions for 2 years, missions so secret that even most generals did not know she existed. To her family, she was just a smart girl who attended a special boarding school for gifted students. To her classmates at that school, she was a quiet kid who liked science and reading. Only 7 people in the entire military knew that America's most successful drone pilot was a 6th grader who still collected stuffed animals. Flight 2156 cruised smoothly at 37,000 feet. Emma read her book and sipped apple juice. The March afternoon was clear, and the flight was scheduled to land in Denver in 90 minutes. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Then, at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon, everything changed. Captain James Mitchell had been flying commercial aircraft for 15 years. He had experienced turbulence, minor mechanical issues, and even a bird strike once. But he had never experienced anything like what happened over the mountains of Wyoming. "Jim," said First Officer Lisa Park, her voice tight with concern. "Look at the hydraulic pressure." Captain Mitchell checked the gauges and felt his stomach drop. The hydraulic pressure in all 3 systems was falling rapidly. Hydraulic systems controlled almost everything on the aircraft. The flight controls, the landing gear, even the brakes. Without hydraulics, the airplane would become nearly impossible to fly. "This can't be right," Mitchell said, checking the readings again. "We can't be losing all 3 systems at once." But they were. Warning lights began flashing across the instrument panel. Alarms sounded in the cockpit. The control yoke in Captain Mitchell's hand started feeling loose and unresponsive. "Denver Center, Delta 2156, Mitchell transmitted, keeping his voice calm despite the fear rising in his chest. "We are declaring an emergency. We have complete hydraulic failure in all systems. Delta 2156, Denver Center copies your emergency. What are your intentions? We need immediate vectors to the nearest suitable airport. We are losing flight control authority." In the passenger cabin, people began to notice something was wrong. The airplane was flying in an unusual way, making strange movements that did not feel normal. Flight attendants moved quickly through the aisles, securing loose items and checking seat belts. In seat 11F, Emma felt the changes immediately. Her training had made her hypersensitive to aircraft behavior. She recognized the symptoms of hydraulic failure even before the captain made his announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Mitchell. We are experiencing a technical issue and will be making an emergency landing. Please follow all crew instructions carefully. The cabin erupted in nervous murmurs. Some passengers began to cry. Others pulled out their phones to send messages to loved ones. Emma remained calm. She had experienced worse situations in simulators. She had guided drones through combat zones while under enemy fire. She knew how to control fear and think clearly in emergencies. But her orders were absolute. Never reveal her identity. Never let anyone know what she could do. Her cover was essential to national security. Even if this aircraft crashed, she was supposed to maintain her disguise as an ordinary child. Emma closed her book and waited to see what would happen. When Delta Flight 2156 declared an emergency over Wyoming airspace, the information was immediately flagged by multiple military systems. A commercial aircraft in distress near sensitive military installations automatically triggered enhanced monitoring protocols. At Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado, Colonel Sarah Martinez received the alert within seconds. "Ma'am," reported Technical Sergeant Williams. "We have a commercial emergency aircraft with complete hydraulic failure. 143 souls on board." "Where are they?" Martinez asked. "Currently over Wyoming, heading toward Denver. They may need to divert to a military airfield. Scramble alert fighters immediately. I want that aircraft escorted and monitored." Within 3 minutes, 2 F-22 Raptor fighters from the 27th Fighter Squadron were climbing rapidly toward the emergency aircraft. Major David "Reaper" Johnson and Captain Nicole "Venom" Adams were experienced pilots who had performed civilian escorts before, but this situation was different. Complete hydraulic failure in a commercial aircraft was extremely rare and extremely dangerous. Denver Center, Raptor 11 Flight of 2, airborne and climbing to intercept Delta 2156. Raptor 11, Delta 2156 is at flight level 370, bearing 090, experiencing complete hydraulic failure. Provide escort and assessment. As the F-22s climbed toward their target, Colonel Martinez was reviewing standard procedures for this type of emergency. But then something unusual appeared on her screen. "Sergeant Williams," she called out. "Pull up the passenger manifest for Delta 2156. "Yes, ma'am." Williams typed rapidly. "Pulling it up now." Martinez scanned through the list of names and stopped at one entry. Seat 11F. Emma Rodriguez. Age 12. It could not be the same Emma Rodriguez. That would be impossible. But Martinez had access to classified databases that most officers did not. She ran the name through the secure system. The results made her heart skip a beat. Emma Rodriguez. Age 12. Call sign Falcon, assigned to Project Nightfall at Creech Air Force Base. Drone pilot with top secret clearance. Over 200 combat missions. The most successful drone pilot in the entire program. "Dear God," Martinez whispered. "Falcon is on that plane." She immediately picked up the secure phone that connected her directly to the Pentagon. "This is Colonel Martinez at Peterson. I need to speak with General Hammond immediately. It's about Project Nightfall." General Hammond came on the line within seconds. "What's the situation, Colonel?" "Sir, we have a commercial aircraft in emergency over Wyoming. Complete hydraulic failure. And according to the manifest, Falcon is on board." There was a long silence. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir." Emma Rodriguez, Seat 11F, Delta 2156. "If that aircraft goes down, we lose our most valuable pilot and potentially compromise the entire Nightfall program. What are our options?" "The aircraft is being escorted by F-22s. They're heading toward Denver, but I don't know if they can make it with no hydraulics. Keep me updated. And Colonel, if there's any way Falcon can help that situation without compromising her cover, we need to consider it." "Understood, sir." Martinez returned her attention to the situation display. The commercial aircraft was slowly descending, its flight path becoming more erratic as the pilots struggled with failing controls. The F-22s had taken up escort positions on either side. She made a decision that would change everything. "Sergeant Williams, get me a secure channel to Raptor 11. I need to speak directly to Major Johnson." Major Johnson was focused on the struggling commercial aircraft when his secure radio crackled to life. "Raptor 11, this is Colonel Martinez, Peterson Base. Switch to secure channel Delta." Johnson switched frequencies. "Raptor 11 on secure Delta. Major, I'm about to give you classified information. What I'm about to tell you does not leave this channel." "Understood." "Understood, ma'am. There is a passenger on Delta 2156 who may be able to help with this emergency. Seat 11F. Emma Rodriguez. Call sign Falcon." Johnson glanced at his wingman, Captain Adams, who was monitoring the same frequency. They exchanged confused looks. "Ma'am, according to our information, that passenger is 12 years old." "That's correct, Major. And she's also one of our most experienced pilots. She's been flying combat drones for Project Nightfall for 2 years. She has more emergency landing experience than most adult pilots." Johnson could not believe what he was hearing. A 12-year-old? "Ma'am, with all due respect. Major, Falcon has successfully landed aircraft with complete system failures over 50 times in training scenarios. She's guided drones through situations that killed experienced pilots. Her reflexes and decision-making abilities are exceptional. What are you asking me to do?" "I need you to contact that aircraft and request to speak with Falcon. Use her call sign. The flight crew needs to know they have an expert on board." "Ma'am, if I do that, her cover is blown. Everyone on that aircraft will know about her." "I understand that, Major. But right now, saving 143 lives is more important than maintaining operational security. General Hammond has approved this action." Johnson took a deep breath. This was the strangest mission briefing he had ever received. But orders were orders. "Raptor 11 copies, switching to guard frequency." He changed to the emergency frequency that all aircraft monitored. "Delta 2156, this is Raptor 11 on guard. We need to speak with passenger Emma Rodriguez immediately. Call sign Falcon. This is a matter of national security." Inside the cockpit of Flight 2156, Captain Mitchell and First Officer Park stared at each other in confusion. "Did he just say Falcon?" Park asked. "That's a military call sign," Mitchell said. "Why would a 12-year-old have a military call sign?" But there was no time to debate. Mitchell pressed the cabin intercom button. "This is Captain Mitchell. Could passenger Emma Rodriguez please identify yourself to the flight attendants immediately?" In seat 11F, Emma felt her carefully maintained cover shatter into pieces. Her call sign had just been broadcast on an open frequency. Her secret was no longer secret. The businessman next to her turned and stared. "Did they just call you Falcon?" Emma unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. Every passenger in the cabin was looking at her now. Mrs. Chen, the flight attendant, rushed over. "Sweetie, did they mean you?" "Yes, ma'am," Emma said quietly. "Please take me to the cockpit." As Emma walked toward the front of the aircraft, she could feel every eye following her. She heard the whispers and confused questions. Her normal life was over. But 143 people needed help, and she was the only person on this aircraft who knew how to provide it. She knocked on the cockpit door. "This is Emma Rodriguez. You called for me." The door opened immediately. Captain Mitchell and First Officer Park stared at the small girl standing before them in disbelief. "You're Emma Rodriguez?" Mitchell asked. "Yes, sir," call sign Falcon. "I'm a drone pilot with the Air Force." "You're 12 years old?" "Yes, sir." "May I see your instrument panel?" Mitchell stepped aside, still looking confused. Emma entered the cockpit and immediately began scanning the gauges and displays. Despite her small size and young age, she moved with the confidence of someone who had spent thousands of hours in cockpits. Complete hydraulic failure in all three systems, she observed. Altitude 32,000 feet and descending. Distance to Denver International approximately 100 miles. That's correct, Park said. Can you really help us? Yes, ma'am. I've trained for this exact scenario many times. Emma looked at both pilots with serious brown eyes. I know you have no reason to trust me. I'm just a kid. But right now, I'm the most qualified person on this aircraft to handle a complete hydraulic failure. Mitchell made a decision. They had nothing to lose. Okay, Falcon. What do you need? Emma stepped fully into the cockpit and immediately took charge in a way that surprised both commercial pilots. Her voice remained young and high-pitched, but her words carried absolute authority. First, we need to contact those F-22s. Raptor 1-1, this is Falcon. I'm in the cockpit now. Falcon, Raptor 1-1. Good to hear your voice. We're here to assist in any way possible. Raptor flight, I need real-time weather data for Denver and all alternate airports within gliding range. Also need wind speed and direction at multiple altitudes. Copy that, Falcon. Stand by. Emma turned to Captain Mitchell. Sir, I need you to trust me completely. What I'm about to teach you is not in any commercial training manual. These are techniques we use for landing drones when all systems fail. We're listening, Mitchell said. Right now, this aircraft is essentially a glider. No hydraulics means very limited control authority. But it's not impossible to land. We just need to use physics instead of technology. Emma began explaining concepts that the commercial pilots had never considered. She talked about energy management, using gravity and momentum to control the aircraft. She described how to make control inputs that did not rely on hydraulic pressure. When I fly drones that lose systems, I focus on three things, Emma said. Airspeed, altitude, and energy state. Everything else is secondary. Captain Mitchell, what's our current weight? Mitchell checked quickly. Approximately 180,000 pounds with current fuel. Okay. Our glide ratio should be approximately 17:1. That means for every mile of altitude, we can glide 17 miles forward. We're at 30,000 feet, which is about 5 miles. That gives us roughly 85 miles of gliding range if we maintain optimal airspeed. Denver is 96 miles, Park said. Then we need an alternate. Raptor 1-1, what's the nearest suitable runway within 70 miles? Falcon, the nearest option is Buckley Space Force Base, 62 miles at your 2 o'clock position. Emma did rapid calculations in her head. That works. Captain Mitchell, we're going to Buckley. Raptor flight, please coordinate with Buckley Tower for emergency landing clearance. Already done, Falcon. Buckley is standing by with crash equipment. Over the next 20 minutes, Emma guided the commercial pilots through procedures they had never imagined. She taught them how to make gentle turns using only the rudder and differential thrust from the engines. She showed them how to control descent rate by adjusting airspeed and pitch angle. Think of the aircraft as a paper airplane, Emma explained. You can't force it to do anything. You have to work with its natural tendencies. Captain Mitchell found himself following instructions from a 12-year-old and being amazed at how well her techniques worked. The aircraft was responding better than it had been before Emma arrived. Falcon, he said, where did you learn all this? Drone pilots deal with system failures constantly, Emma replied. We fly aircraft that are experimental and unreliable. I've landed drones with no hydraulics, no electronics, even no engines. You learn to work with whatever you have. The F-22 pilots watched in amazement as the commercial aircraft began flying more smoothly under Emma's guidance. Venom, are you seeing this? Major Johnson asked his wingman. I can't believe what I'm watching, Reaper. That kid is flying that 737 better than most adults. Colonel Martinez wasn't exaggerating. Falcon really is something special. As they descended through 20,000 feet, Emma began preparing for the most difficult part of the emergency landing. The approach and touchdown with no hydraulics would require perfect timing and execution. Captain Mitchell, in about 10 minutes we're going to start our final approach. I need you to listen carefully to everything I say and trust me completely. What we're about to do has never been attempted with a commercial aircraft this size. We're with you, Falcon. Emma keyed the radio. Raptor 1-1, Falcon. We're beginning our approach phase. I need you to monitor our glide path and call out any deviations. Copy that, Falcon. We've got you covered. Buckley Space Force Base had prepared for emergencies before, but never for anything like this. Fire trucks and ambulances lined the runway. Medical teams stood ready. Base Commander Colonel Robert Chin watched from the tower as the crippled commercial aircraft approached, escorted by 2 F-22 Raptors. Tower, this is Falcon aboard Delta 2156. We're beginning our final approach. Falcon, Buckley Tower. Runway 35 is cleared. All emergency equipment is standing by. Wind is 090 at 12 knots. Copy, Buckley Tower. Be advised, we have no hydraulics and very limited control authority. This landing will not be pretty. Inside the cockpit, Emma stood between the two pilot seats, her small frame barely reaching the instrument panel. But her voice remained calm and confident. Captain Mitchell, our approach speed will be 150 knots. That's faster than normal, but we need the extra speed for control. Do not try to slow down until we're over the runway threshold. 150 knots, understood. First Officer Park, you'll handle the throttles. I need you to maintain precise power settings. Even small changes will affect our glide path. Got it, Falcon. Raptor 1-1, call out our altitude every 1,000 feet and our position relative to the runway's centerline. Will do, Falcon. They descended through 15,000 feet, then 10,000. The runway came into view in the distance, a thin gray line on the brown Colorado landscape. Falcon, you're looking good, Major Johnson transmitted. On glide path, slightly right of centerline. Copy. Captain Mitchell, small rudder input to the left. Very gentle. Mitchell made the correction and the aircraft slowly drifted toward the centerline. At 5,000 feet, turbulence from the mountains buffeted the aircraft. Without hydraulics, the controls felt mushy and unresponsive. Mitchell started to panic. I can't hold it steady. Yes, you can, Emma said firmly. Don't fight the turbulence. Let the aircraft ride through it. Small inputs only. Her calm confidence helped Mitchell regain his composure. He followed her instructions and the aircraft steadied. 3,000 feet, Johnson called. Perfect glide path, centerline. Excellent, Emma said. Captain Mitchell, start thinking about your flare. At 100 feet, you'll begin a very gentle nose-up pitch. But don't overdo it. Without hydraulics, you won't be able to correct if you pitch up too much. Understood. 2,000 feet, looking perfect, Falcon. In the passenger cabin, flight attendants had prepared everyone for a rough landing. Some passengers were praying. Others sat rigid with fear. A few were crying quietly. 1,000 feet. Emma's voice remained absolutely steady. Captain Mitchell, you're doing great. Maintain 150 knots. First Officer Park, be ready to reduce power at 500 feet. 500 feet. On glide path. Centerline perfect. Power back to idle, Emma instructed. Park pulled the throttles back. The engine spooled down and the aircraft began settling faster. 200 feet. You're good, Falcon. Captain Mitchell, begin your flare. Gentle back pressure. Mitchell pulled back on the control yoke slowly. The nose of the aircraft pitched up slightly. 100 feet. 50 feet. The runway rushed up to meet them. Emma watched the altitude indicator counting down. 30 feet. 20. 10. The main landing gear touched the runway with a heavy thud. The aircraft bounced once, then settled back onto the pavement. Without hydraulic brakes, Captain Mitchell used only the engine's reverse thrust to slow down. We're down. Park shouted. The aircraft rolled down the runway, gradually slowing. Emergency vehicles raced alongside them. After what seemed like forever, the aircraft finally rolled to a stop. Delta 2156, you're down safe, Buckley Tower transmitted. Outstanding job. In the cockpit, Captain Mitchell let out a long breath. His hands were shaking. He turned to look at Emma, who was standing calmly between the seats as if nothing unusual had happened. How did you do that? He asked in wonder. Physics and practice, Emma replied with a small smile. Mostly practice. The cockpit door opened and Mrs. Chen appeared, tears streaming down her face. We're alive. We're actually alive. Behind her, passengers were cheering and crying with relief. Many of them were trying to see into the cockpit, wanting to catch a glimpse of the 12-year-old who had saved their lives. Falcon, Raptor 11, came Major Johnson's voice on the radio. That was the most incredible display of airmanship I have ever witnessed. Ma'am, it has been an honor to work with you. For the first time since the emergency began, Emma's composure cracked slightly. She felt tears forming in her eyes. Thank you, Raptor Flight. I couldn't have done it without your support. Outside the aircraft, the F-22 Raptors performed a ceremonial flyby, a gesture of respect normally reserved for high-ranking officers and fallen heroes. The pilots came to attention in their cockpits as they passed overhead. It was a salute to a 12-year-old who had just saved 143 lives. Within hours, Emma's secret identity became international news. The story of the 12-year-old military pilot who had saved a commercial flight spread around the world instantly. Child pilot saves commercial flight, read the headlines. Military's secret weapon is a sixth grader, wrote journalists trying to understand how this was possible. Emma sat in a conference room at Buckley Space Force Base, still wearing her hoodie with the cartoon astronaut. General Hammond had flown in from the Pentagon. Colonel Martinez was there. So were several other high-ranking officers whose names Emma did not know. Emma, General Hammond said gently, you understand that your cover is completely compromised. Yes, sir, Emma replied quietly. You disobeyed your standing orders to maintain your cover under all circumstances. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Don't be sorry, Hammond said with a slight smile. You saved 143 lives. That's more important than any secret program. I want you to understand something. You're not in trouble. What you did today was extraordinary. Thank you, sir. However, we now have to figure out what to do next. Your role in Project Nightfall is obviously finished. You can't operate as a covert pilot anymore. Emma nodded. She had expected this. Her secret life was over. We're offering you a choice, Colonel Martinez said. You can return to normal life. Go back to being a regular kid. The Air Force will arrange for your education and support. Or what? Emma asked. Or you can accept a new role. We want you to become an instructor. Teaching other pilots the emergency techniques you use today. Both military and civilian pilots need to learn what you know. Emma's eyes widened. You want me to teach adult pilots? Your techniques just saved a commercial aircraft, General Hammond said. Knowledge like that should be shared. You could help save thousands of lives over the years. Emma thought about it for only a moment. I'll do it. I want to teach. 6 months later, Emma stood in a classroom at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. The room was filled with experienced pilots, some with 20 years of flying experience. They all watched skeptically as a 13-year-old walked to the front of the room, standing on a small platform so she could reach the podium. "Good morning," Emma said into the microphone. "My name is Emma Rodriguez, call sign Falcon. Today I'm going to teach you emergency procedures that might save your life someday." The skepticism in the room was obvious. Emma could see it on their faces. But she had dealt with doubt before. "I know what you're thinking," she said. "You're wondering what a kid can possibly teach you about flying. Let me show you something." She pulled up a video on the screen behind her. It showed her landing a drone with complete system failures, using only basic aerodynamics. The assembled pilots watched in silence. "I've been flying for 4 years," Emma continued. "I've experienced over 200 system failures. I've landed aircraft with no hydraulics, no electronics, no engines. I've done things that killed other pilots. Not because I'm special, but because I learned techniques that aren't taught in standard training programs." She spent the next 3 hours teaching concepts that amazed the adult pilots. She explained emergency procedures that had never been written down. She demonstrated calculations and decision-making processes that could mean the difference between life and death. By the end of the class, the skepticism had vanished. The experienced pilots were taking notes frantically, asking questions, wanting to learn more from the 13-year-old instructor. "Captain Rodriguez," said Air Force Colonel James Peterson, a pilot with over 5,000 flight hours, "I've been flying for 23 years. You just taught me things I never knew were possible." Emma smiled. "That's because military and civilian training have been separated for too long. We need to share knowledge that can save lives." Over the following months, Emma's training program grew. Airlines began sending their pilots to learn from her. The Federal Aviation Administration adopted her techniques as official procedures. Military bases around the country requested her as an instructor. The passengers from Delta Flight 2156 never forgot what Emma had done. Many stayed in touch with her, sending letters and emails thanking her for saving their lives. The businessman from Seat 11E, whose name was David Chen, started a scholarship fund for students interested in aviation. Captain Mitchell and First Officer Park both became instructors in Emma's program, teaching other commercial pilots the techniques Emma had taught them. The F-22 pilots who had escorted Flight 2156, Major Johnson and Captain Adams, also joined Emma's instructor team. They helped bridge the gap between military and civilian aviation communities. "Working with Falcon during that emergency changed my perspective," Major Johnson told his classes. "The best techniques should be available to everyone who needs them to save lives. Military and civilian pilots should learn from each other." 2 years after the emergency landing at Buckley Space Force Base, 14-year-old Emma received the Distinguished Flying Cross, one of the highest awards for aviation achievement. The ceremony was held at the Pentagon, attended by hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by her work. "Emma Rodriguez represents the best of what aviation can be," said Air Force Chief of Staff General Lisa Williams during the ceremony. "She proves that knowledge, courage, and skill matter more than age or appearance." All 143 passengers from Delta Flight 2156 were invited to the ceremony. Many attended, traveling from across the country to honor the girl who had saved them. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over," said passenger Mary Johnson, who had been traveling to Denver for her daughter's wedding. "Emma gave me a second chance. I got to see my daughter get married. I got to meet my first grandchild. I owe her everything." Captain Mitchell spoke about how Emma's techniques had been incorporated into United Airlines training programs. "Emma didn't just save our aircraft. She changed how the entire aviation industry thinks about emergencies." The ceremony also recognized Major Johnson and Captain Adams, the F-22 pilots who had provided critical support during the emergency. Both pilots spoke about the honor of working with Falcon. That day, we learned that heroism comes in all ages, Captain Adams said. Emma taught us that the measure of a pilot isn't size or age. It's skill, knowledge, and courage under pressure. After the ceremony, Emma was surrounded by young people who wanted to meet her. Children and teenagers who dreamed of becoming pilots themselves. She spent hours talking with them, answering questions, encouraging them to pursue their dreams. "Can girls really be military pilots?" a 10-year-old girl asked shyly. "Girls can be anything," Emma replied with a warm smile. "I'm proof of that. If you work hard and never give up, you can achieve anything you want." Today, at 19 years old, Emma Falcon Rodriguez continues to serve in the Air Force while finishing her aerospace engineering degree at the Air Force Academy. She is one of the youngest officers in military history and one of the most respected voices in aviation safety. Her emergency procedures manual is now required reading at flight schools in 43 countries. Her techniques have been credited with saving over 2,000 lives in the 7 years since the Delta Flight 2156 incident. Emma's office at the Academy displays a photo from that day. Not the landing, but a picture of her sitting in seat 11F before the emergency, reading her science fiction book and looking like any normal kid. It reminds her of where she started and why her work matters. "The most important lesson from my experience," Emma tells students who visit her office, "is that everyone has abilities that others might not see. Age doesn't matter. What matters is developing your skills and using them to help people when they need it most." Captain Mitchell retired from commercial flying but continues to teach in Emma's program. First Officer Park became a captain and now flies internationally. The passengers from Flight 2156 have formed a group they call the Falcon Survivors, and meet annually to celebrate their second chance at life. In airports around the world, passengers board aircraft every day without knowing that their safety depends partly on techniques developed by someone who once sat in seat 11F, looking like just another kid traveling alone. The story of Falcon reminds us that heroes come in all sizes and ages. That extraordinary abilities can hide behind ordinary appearances. And that true courage means using your gifts to help others, regardless of personal cost. Emma Rodriguez proved that skill, knowledge, and courage are what truly matter. She was just a kid in seat 11F until the moment when 143 lives depended on her. And in that moment, she became exactly what she had always been, a pilot whose call sign commanded respect and whose abilities could save anyone brave enough to fly.